All right, everyone, welcome. It is Friday. We are back again with another weekly workshop, and today we have Eric. Eric is the developer of a game called Lucid, and he is running it through Black Mat Studios, his company, and it is currently on wish list on Steam. I'm going to put the link to this game as well as a link to his Twitter account so you guys can see what's going on. Let's see. Eric is a indie developer. He has his own story of how he came up with Lucid, how he developed it. A lot of you guys are going to be going into the 2D mobile adventure game, the Dungeon Escape, and it uses tile map and it uses 2D elements and animations and sprite sheets. Well, this is what happens when you take those things that you learn and you go on steroids with them and you make something incredible, and that's really what Lucid is. It's a fantastic 2D side scroller adventure game. Really excited to talk about it. And Eric, thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for hopping on. And how about you introduce us and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. As Al said, my name is Eric. I am also a self-taught indie dev. I started out in Game Maker about like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, just kind of like dove in, peruse the forums, just absorb as many YouTube, Sean Spalding as I could. And that's kind of where Lucid began way back in the day. It was like little sketchbooks during lunch hours when I was working as an architect. And I just kind of went at it as a little hobby, just learning like little vignettes of like, oh, this is how you do movement. This is how you do collisions.
I'm
This is how you
sorry,
do.
sorry. Did you say architect?
Yes.
Okay. Not computer science major, not game developer, architect.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
I went to school for architecture. I was
Okay.
an architect for yeah, 10 plus years in mostly high-end residential architecture.
Oh
But
wow. Okay.
it,
Okay. I'm
it's
sorry.
a
Please continue. It's just
no
it's interesting
problem.
because
Yeah,
it's totally unrelated to game development, but here
it,
you are.
it is. Yeah, it was definitely a big jump. It was very. I learned a lot in architecture school. It was a very good, like teaching you how to think design-wise, both like form, shape, like consistency, visual language. And I also love movies, so like storytelling and narrative, kind of all. It's kind of just an accumulation of a meeting point of all my hot music as well. I've been in bands and ever since high school and DJ'd a while in college, like who didn't at that time. But it all just kind of fused together to make an indie dev. But yeah, eventually I just went on Lucid for a few years just as a hobby, and then I went on a hiatus just because life got in the way, and it was it is what it was, a hobby, and needed to eat, so I
Mhm.
had to focus more on actually working. But then about a year and a half ago, I was out walking the dog with my fiance, and she was like, "Whatever happened to that project you were doing? It was one of like you were so happy doing it. I loved it. It was one of my favorite things you were doing." And I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of just put it off, put it off. And then she's like, you should pick it up again. I'm like, all right. I've been tossing around the idea of picking up Unity. I always wanted to. And I said, maybe this is a good way to learn. So about a year and a half ago, I just kind of like redid all the assets, rethought the game design, the gameplay loop, redid the animations, just like ground up all the old assets, kind of like fold in them because I've been doing pixel art consistently, and I kind of learned a thing over the 10 years. So redid the animations, learned Unity, and then posted to Instagram, and then all of a sudden, one thing after another started kind of picking up some steam, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh man, this is fun, and people liked what they saw. And then about a month and a half ago, I had enough support, and it made sense, and it looked like we could do it. And I went, took the plunge, and I left my architecture job, and now I'm a full-time indie dev. And there's nothing in the nothing solidified yet, but there's hopefully some big news I can announce in the future with hopefully some publishing stuff going on. But it's good things are happening, and I'm very excited and excited to
Okay.
be here.
Awesome. So
Mhm.
so tell me, like, talk us through, give us the elevator pitch for Lucid.
Sure. Okay. The elevator pitch. This is I've like tried to workshop this because it's such like a big thing. There's like so many pieces of games and gameplay types all fused together. But boiled down, you are the story is you're playing as a young Owen, and he is a young Sentinel, which is essentially like, for lack of a better term, like a Jedi. Yeah, you're playing as a young Owen, and you are off to fulfill a solemn promise and basically rebuild a shattered world post an apocalyptic kind of event.
Hmm.
Um, and that is what you're seeing right here is this was like the big apocalyptic event was when Troika, this kind of like fiery celestial serpent, kind of like unraveled from the sun and then strikes the Lucid giant. He dies, he shatters, and it's up to you to go collect pieces of his heart and put them back together and see others' life and yourself lucidly, translucently, and it's like there's a lot of narratives, a lot of Dark Soul kind of weaving storylines where the more you reveal of the story, the more you understand of other people, yourself, and there's always like two sides to a pancake situation. Like there's never black and white. There's like everyone's multifaceted.
Wow. So, with this game, there's so much to pick at here.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
pretty
so
dense.
you are solo developing this, correct?
Yeah, I am in the sense that I have some help with some music. I have some help with some dialogue,
Mhm.
some promo art, but for the most part, yeah, solo
Okay.
dev.
And you said that basically you rebuilt this a year and a
Mhm.
half ago. So
Yeah.
really, like you have assets, but like in a year and a half, this has just been constructed, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're of course using Unity and how what is like the give us an idea of like the mechanics behind it. Obviously this is a side scroller. Is there an inventory system? Is it a level based environment? Is it linear? Is there a map that you go onto? Like
Mhm.
how is that played out?
So I guess I'll go from macro and kind of
Mhm.
go into micro. Macro, yes, there's going to be an overworld map, very Metroidvania in that sense.
Mhm.
Um, and you can tell I played Breath of the Wild at the time because it's going to be a game where you can go any direction and wherever you'd like from the offset. There's an intended path, and it's shown to the player via difficulty spikes, enemy difficulty, traversal difficulty. But you can still, if you are savvy enough and good platformer or combat wise, or what say whatever it is, you can go wherever you like. You can
Mhm.
do that.
Okay.
Um, and then from there, the difference on this Metroidvania overworld map is that there are these dungeons. So you
Mhm.
can enter dungeons from the overworld, um, eventually via story, playing out events, but you can get into dungeons, and then it turns into a kind of Zelda-ish dungeon, 2D side scroller Zelda-ish dungeon, but
Mhm.
mixed with like a Mega Man X, Mega Man Zero kind of vibe. So it's like Mega Man X meets Legend of Zelda meets Hades a little bit, kind of levels, and then
Mhm.
you get your treasures in there. And when you get a treasure, it's an ability that enhances combat and expands mobility. So that means that you can get the treasure, your new ability, leave the dungeon, and then because if it's for whatever reason too difficult, it's kind of like a Mega Man X situation where treasure A helps you with boss B a little bit. It's not like multiplying damage, it's more like position based, and it's just a better hitbox for this pattern of boss, stuff like that. But you can then leave the dungeon, and then with your new traversal prowess, you can now connect nodes. These you'll see right there, those little lucid lanterns, those diamonds.
Mhm.
You can connect crystal arts and traverse larger gaps and expand your exploration of the world that way. So it's a very interwoven cycle of gameplay. I was very deliberate in that sense. But
Very
and then to answer your inventory question, so sorry, it's like a wall of verbal text.
cool.
Yeah, there is a sort of an inventory. It's kind of like more like that Hollow Knight badge system.
Mhm.
Here they're more bracers, but they alter some attributes of when you're the protagonist, maybe how a projectile works, how your wall sliding works, how your jumping works, dashing works. There's like small modifiers each bracer will do.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Mhm.
So as far as 2D goes, diving into this, what tools in Unity did you use to make your 2D elements? Did you buy them online? Did you find them on, some website that you use? Like what was how did how did you come up with the 2D assets, and B, how are you implementing them inside your game?
Okay. I've made them all from scratch. My go-to program, it's Unity and Sprite. It's just those in 10, like
Okay.
back and forth.
Did you
So
say
I
Sprite?
Yeah, Sprite. It's spelled Asepprite. There it is. Yep.
There we go. Okay.
This is I love this program. They are constantly updating it. It's very popular. There's many tutorials. It is made for pixel art animation. I can't recommend it enough. I use it for every asset. If you go to the Instagram or Twitter or any Lucid asset you see, it was made in Sprite.
Okay.
Um, Rarely or sometimes some things are then brought into Photoshop, enhanced with gradients or something, but
Right.
it's not as much as Sprite.
Okay.
But yeah, this is basically the workflow. I'll make an asset here, import it into Unity, and it's mostly using the tile set. I use the tile set a lot for you know collision, basically outlining the world. Um, and then there's a few parallax items that become individual objects, and they're using the depth of the Z plane because the camera isn't orthographic. It is an actual camera, so it has this nice kind of depth and on top of actual parallax code
Hmm.
on the objects. It makes this really nice, really dense and deep sense of depth of field.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's been working so far.
Okay. And are you connecting that all through like an animator system with animation states, or how are you getting, like, let's say your character, your walk cycles, your jump cycles, all the other good stuff?
Mhm. It's I'm using a state machine for sure. It's every state has a correlating animation state,
Hmm.
and it's just using the baked in animator
Hmm.
system of Unity
Yeah.
for
Okay.
sure.
Very cool. Very cool. Wesley asked, as an indie dev, uh, how is your time balanced between, animations, creations, and then the coding?
It's a great question. It's actually something I've been, I don't want to say struggling with, but wrestling with recently.
Mhm.
Because as we will all learn as indie devs, you have multiple hats to wear,
Mhm.
which is animator, programmer, and then marketer. And marketing
Mhm.
takes up so
Mhm.
much time, and it's not always a bad thing. It's actually very fun. I have a Lucid Discord. A Twitch stream that's been very fun, and it's a great way to create a community, a grassroots community, which I think is so valuable for an indie dev. But to answer the question, time-wise, as of late, it's been kind of like in thirds of those things where it'll be uh, a third of time goes to marketing and Twitch and cultivating a community. And then a third of it is animating, creating assets, polishing. And then another third goes into programming and making it all work and putting in the particle effects and making sure the physics and the bugs and all that works.
Mhm.
And to be totally candid, actually, lately it seems like it's maybe like an eighth in the programming. I've been updating Owen's sprite sheet lately, and it's so late into the game. There are so many animations, but it was a necessary step. So I feel like I've been doing a lot of the pixel art and assets
Okay.
currently. So it's always a kind of a juggling act, and it's a spectrum that kind of shifts and it's watery, but you just got to
So
stay on it.
I know some of the students are really interested. Do you think we could take a little peek at what's going on in your game, and so that I guess
Sure.
it becomes a reality to some people. Like, oh my God, this is what I've learned. I could do this.
Sure, yeah, it's not gonna blow anybody's socks off. I guarantee you. It's very standard, but I'm more than happy to lift the hood and show what's going on. Yeah, let me, is it this one? Share screen. There we go.
There you go. It is going.
Okay. Um, oh, there was one last thing.
Yes.
When we were talking about assets,
Yes.
I wouldn't consider it an asset. However, I do recommend if you are into uh, doing a platformer and even a top-down game, the Corgi engine. I'm using the Corgi engine as a base.
Okay.
And
What is
that is, oh,
corgi?
Corgi engine is an asset from the Unity store.
Okay.
So I guess it is an asset, but it's not like a 2D asset. It's more of a physics engine. It's a fantastic, yes, spelled Corgi, yes. If you type in Corgi Engine Unity, I
Hmm.
guarantee you'll find it. It's a very popular um, asset, especially their Discord. Very helpful, very accommodating. The developer is like very quick with responses. He has a very big team that's always very helpful. Can't recommend that enough as well. That was a great shortcut. Uh, Getting from a year of development,
Hmm.
just having this baseline that's very customizable and has a lot of permutation, and you can make everything I touched has been touched into lucified it, but it's a great base. Can't recommend it enough.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But yeah, okay. So now that got that out of the way, this is a standard what a standard level would start to look like. And
Hmm.
you got your tile grids over here. You got your objects that are physics based. Like these have based on the Corgi engine code, these have certain codes components on them that
Hmm.
that make them interact with the player character. Um, let's see what else. Here's the base. Um, the tile map. What we were talking earlier, Al. This is these here are all the tile sets. So you've got
Hmm.
your base tile set. You got your first underlay. You got your second underlay, and
Hmm.
each of these underlays have a certain depth, like a plane I set them at. So they
Hmm.
all kind of move at different speeds due to parallax. But on top of that, you'll notice that these bushes and things are individual items, as well as this is an individual parallaxing repeating tile set. The same
Hmm.
thing back here. So it's a definitely a blend of object and tile set and actual parallax code and just camera trickery. It's every trick I can muster and know of all
Hmm.
put together. Um,
Interesting.
yeah.
And so when you come up with this, do you like hand sketch this out? Do you do basic blocking and then play through the level and then you design it? Like how do you come up with the level flow?
That is, you pretty much said exactly that. But here's
Dang it.
I've got I have a sketchbook. I sketch it all out, and it's all on paper first. I have more sketchbook,
Hmm.
yeah. So I sketch out the idea. I'm like, okay, this is totally gonna work. First time, I'm a genius, obviously. You put it in, you're like, it doesn't work. And
Right.
then you have to like, oh, this is too tall. This is not high enough. This is happening too quickly. The pacing is off. I want to repeat this learned thing more times, so it's definitely ingrained in the player that it's not just a one-time jump tutorial. It's like an iterative process. So it's again, it's like a ebb and flow of sketch, put it in from sketch, play it, not exactly right, tweak it, and just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then once, and this is all in this stage. When I'm doing this, it is all in, it doesn't look like, there's no tiles. So all this would be off. You wouldn't see uh, these trees, no bushes. It's all blocked out like gray boxes. And then once it feels good, like really good, and I'm very confident, like, okay, this is very close to what I like, and I don't see it changing anytime soon, then you go in and you put all the paint and all the tiles and all the bushes and cover the seams, and it's a very, that's a step by kind of, that's the order of operations I've been working in.
Okay, okay, very cool. And as far as your 2D sprites, looking at your tile-based map, like what is your average like pixel ratio, like your sprite sheets? Like how many sprite sheets do you have in this thing? What size do you
Oh,
usually set these things at?
oh man. Probably breaking some rules. Uh, I'm gonna be straight up with you, Al. I'm probably breaking rules where I know that there are certain sets, like sizes, and I think it's like 2048 or
Yeah,
2048. Like you want like powers of
power
two, I
two,
believe.
power two,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and sometimes I just don't do that. I know, I know. It's one of those like I'll get to it later where I will cut it up and I'll fix it because and I really hope I do. But yes, I should be doing that, but
Mhm.
right now I'm not.
I
But
got you.
it's more like I'll make this because it's so hard to when I think I'll have every moment taken care of in a tile set,
Mhm.
and I'll be like, I have every slope, I have every corner all planned out. And then I start putting it in. I'm like, ah, crap, I don't have this moment. Got to go in, got to add it. I'm like, oh, I don't have this moment. You keep adding, and then all of a sudden, it's no longer a power of two. And you're like, God damn it. But yeah, it's I'm only human, hell. I'm only
I
human.
gotcha. Absolutely. No, I was just curious. I'm like, wow, there in 2D level, level design, just like you, I found it difficult because it's like, well, I'm supposed to predict the shape of every single thing in here
Yeah,
before I've actually built the game. And so then you're like squishing it all up in one side, and then
yep.
some tile sheets have like all this space in between, and other ones you're like, man, I got to add more because I didn't even consider this ledge or this type of ledge or this slope. What about the underslope versus the overslope? All those stuff.
1,000%. You'll see even like in here, look at all these very strange moments.
Mhm.
It's like all hodgepodged in my head space right now. When it is time to, as I said, like these blocked out areas, I'm in the process of creating the demo. When the demo is totally blocked out, I'm going to go back and then before I place all my tiles, it's going to be powers of two cut up because I'll know then I have all my tiles. I can then cut them up properly and go from there. And then hopefully leave some space somewhere for any extra, you know, things that slip through the cracks.
Gotcha.
That's the plan.
And what about your enemies and the sprite sheets and the way those enemies look on here? So we got a taste of your environment. How do those look?
They are pretty standard. They're horizontal sheets. Let me just pick up an Owen. I've got oh, you'll see here. I'm working with let's see, let me double click here.
I
This is
think
just a standard sheet, and from a sprite you can
hold on, I think it's frozen, I think.
oh, did my this computer's internet has been wonky.
Oh, okay.
Let me get that, but I can
Sure.
describe it as I'm doing that. Let me get back in here. There we go. But yeah, it'll be, you can export animations from a sprite into horizontal sprite sheets, or if you prefer, you can have entire sheets that powers of two and just have multiple. I like keeping it all compartmentalized.
Mhm.
Um, and then from there, I'm also working with emission layers and normal maps.
Okay.
And I have a um, I have a program. It's called Sprite Delight. Sprite Delight, I believe. Let me see. It's called, yeah, Sprite Delight.
All right, let me make this a co-host so we can take a look at what you're doing.
Ah, beautiful. Share screen, stream, and we're back.
Yes, we're back.
And we're back. Wonderful. Um, so yes, I use Sprite Delight for creating normal maps.
Oh, okay.
It's very nifty software. It was on Kickstarter forever ago. The developer still kind of putzing away a little bit. He's been kind of low key, but what he has now is completely adequate for my needs. But
Hmm.
love that. But back to this is just what a normal Owen sprite sheet would look like.
Okay.
You just put it in there, and then you've got your normal maps, same deal, an mission. And what took me a very long time to figure out, and maybe this will help anybody out there, because it's not like explicitly said anywhere in the, or maybe I just couldn't find it. But so to use these normal maps with the shader that I wrote, I had to go into the sprite editor, and from here, I'm using secondary textures. And here it's a very specific naming convention, which
Hmm.
was, this is what took me a while to find, and I couldn't get it immediately. But using the name bump map and emission text, and then slotting in one of these emissions or bumped normal map textures into here, that's
Hmm.
how I get that light interaction, and also where all those blue gems on Owen, they kind of like breathe and glow and emit light as well with the emission.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the one of the more nifty things I was able to do. I was very happy with that.
Very cool. Very cool. Um, and let's see. So we got that size of the. Oh, as far as the size of the game, like how many levels do you intend to have for the player to experience?
Definitely. There are 5 major dungeons. There will be some side quests, some overworld mini boss fights, a handful of like external optional dungeons or boss fights or quests. So 5 major dungeons, a whole handful of quests to get bracers or upgrade materials, health upgrades, stamina upgrades, lore pieces of lore, um, you name it. And then there's going to be, of course, a kind of like an end game where it's don't want to spoil too much, but there will be a boss fight. There's
Hmm.
a few optional boss fights. Yeah, I'm looking to land somewhere. I would love to hit Hollow Knight levels of amount of content. That's kind of what I'm shooting for.
Gotcha, gotcha. Let's see. So as far as where do you plan on pushing this game toward? Is it just PC? Is it console? Is it Switch? What's the idea here?
Default, definitely Steam. There's
Hmm.
the, as we know, there's the Steam wish list. So PC by default. I'm planning to launch a Kickstarter. I don't know. The idea was
Hmm.
Q3 this year, but the there was a moment of talks with some big names behind the scenes that kind of I had to take a pit stop, but I think it was very much worth it. So it might be maybe late Q3, maybe Q4, but Kickstarter later this year that will hopefully, if done well, does well enough, I can get onto the Switch and other console platforms. But Switch is my number one. Like I would love to get to the Switch. That's
Hmm.
getting onto as a Nintendo fanboy, getting Lucid on a Nintendo console would be a dream come true.
Gotcha. Can you talk to us a little bit? Oh, Anthony, real quick, asked, how are your wish list numbers going so far? Are they doing good?
Very good. I don't want to, you know, peek, pull the curtain back too much, but for the number that I'm going to be very happy with on launch, and a launch that I don't is not for quite a long time. I'd say we're up to like almost 35% of the way there, and
Mhm.
that's with no demo, very little marketing push. So I'm very happy with the reception so far.
Gotcha, gotcha. And can I ask the publisher experience? What has that been like so far?
That has been very interesting. Um, I've I've never done this before. It was if you first get a few people reaching out for a publishing deal, and then I would look into them and I would realize it wasn't the right fit at all. And then after like 25 of those, and you're
Hmm.
like, all right, this is just, it becomes like spam
Yeah.
mail. And you're
Yeah.
just like, okay, okay, okay. And, it's just, it wasn't a fit. But then recently, there was one or two that were like persistent, and they would enter the Discord and they would reach out to me and get other people to reach out to me like, hey, we would really like to talk. Then I was like, fine. And I look into them and I was like, oh my, okay, maybe I should give these guys a phone call. And
Mhm.
they've been very helpful, very it's been a very good experience. Both of the publishers that I was very much talking to, um, it couldn't I don't have any bad thing to say about them. I was very surprised. I was very standoffish to the publishing idea.
Mhm.
I coming from the world of music, like getting signed and knowing how record labels kind of work, and it's always very, it seems like it could get very dicey. I was very standoffish, but I'm happy to say it's been a very positive experience.
Okay. Just for the students in here, can you explain to them in your own words why you are going to go the publisher route? What is
Mm,
the reason behind it? And can you give them kind of like an idea of what does the publisher bring to the table for this particular essence, and what are they asking for in return?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So initially, I was going to self-publish, just do it myself, and then in my head, I was like that more end profits for me, and I
Hmm.
don't have to do any sharing, and that's great. And that works for many people. And more, it's not like you need a publisher. You don't need a publisher. For my situation, I left my job. I didn't have a source of income. That was a big one. So there would be a source of income now, which would help me live and also create Lucid. They're also handling a lot of the marketing. They're handling a lot of equipment. They'll be setting up booths for like PAX West, PAX East. They get you to the conferences. They have marketing connections. They can get you exposure on websites and articles. They also have a giant team of programmers, QA testers, quality insurance rather. They can do porting. There's they have like a big team and a lot of, just like a lot of muscle behind them. So when it going from a solo dev to all of a sudden having resources like that, it just makes the game that I could make has changed. I now have a little bit more um, bigger scope. I can make a larger, what's more true to my vision. It's more in my attainable, and but that comes at the price of a revenue share. However, I did, you do your numbers, and let's say as a solo dev, with your limited range in marketing and budget, you sell, uh, I don't know, 20,000 units. You make a nice penny. But if you are with them, if you're selling 200,000 units at uh, throwing a 50-50, even if it was a 50-50 split, you end up making more money that way. So that's ideally the situation that will happen, but
Hmm.
you never know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely.
time
And
will
and
tell.
and for the people in here who don't know, what is the benefit for the publisher? A lot of
Mm,
publishers will do deals, and they know they're going to lose money. They know that 9 out of every 10 projects they take on will never make back its initial investment.
mhm,
And basically what they do is they give you a check when you hit certain milestones.
mhm,
You say what's your budget, what am I planning on what do I need money wise for the next 2 years to finish this game on releasing the game. We're not going to butt in too much. We're going to give you some advice, et cetera, but
yep, yep,
you got to set the milestones, et cetera, quality performance, yada yada yada.
mhm,
But then they would basically write the check that Eric wanted so that he could keep his family going, make the game, finish it, hit the deadline. There's no guarantee that they'll give him any more money. It's not like you're a salaried employee.
Nope.
But with the publisher on their end, they look at it and say, if 9 out of every 10 of these games, we're going to spend 100,000, 200,000, $300,000. Um, if they all 9 out of 10 of them fail to make back their initial investment, that's okay because one of them will, and that one game is going to make 50 times what my initial investment was, and that's what they're banking on, is that they will find that diamond in the rough that just goes viral, takes off, and makes up for any of the money spent on any other project. So it's kind of this really weird symbiotic relationship where
Mhm.
their interest in your success is
Yeah.
very good, and it's really like they're hedging their bet on you to knock it out of the park with this game, but they also know there's factors outside of their control.
Yep.
Nobody knew that. What was a there was a recent game that came out. Horizon Zero Dawn, the sequel, came out. They had no idea that Elden Ring was going to be released. It's an amazing game. It's phenomenal, and it just happened to come out right when Elden Ring did, and it didn't hit the numbers that they expected. It's just they could have done everything right, and it still is that way. And then there's other times where it's
Yeah.
not the greatest game in the world, but it's the perfect timing, perfect
Yeah.
environment, perfect situation, and it just happens. Um,
Mhm.
Breath of the Wild came out 3 days after the first Horizon. Yeah, I mean, ouch,
Yep.
that hurts.
And Horizon got hurt twice. Oof. Yeah. That's that timing is huge. It's like such an unknown variable. There's just so many things that you don't have control of. So like you said, it's a gamble in a lot of respects.
Mhm, mhm. So with your publisher, how are they with all the publishers you spoke to?
Hmm.
What are their thoughts about porting with Unity versus, let's say, an Unreal or another game engine or whatnot?
Hmm. I I don't know their opinions on other engines. I do know that when they heard that it was in Unity, they were very happy. And
Mhm,
it seems like many of their roster, I'm completely speculating at this point, but it does seem like most of their roster currently is being developed in Unity, only because in talks, when they found out it was in Unity, they were very excited because they had like team members who know Unity a lot.
mhm,
Um, so I don't know if it's because they only have Unity or they have a lot of Unity and no Unreal, but Unity is a very versatile and well-known engine. So I
okay,
guess it's
okay.
the
Now here's another thing is okay. You were in architecture. You were an
Hmm.
architect, and then you dive into game development. Um, uh, is was did your parents have to sit you down and have to have
Oh,
a
God.
conversation with you about this?
Well, it's funny. I have like a little anecdote in regards to that. I remember I had to be, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 5 to 10. Don't know. I was in the back of my parents' car. It was late one night, and I was like sketching in a notebook. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm sketching a video game character." I'm like, "Oh, why? Why are you doing that?" And I said, "I want to make video games when I get older." And they're like, my dad meant he's only looking out for me in his 1980s brain. Like video games are not a thing. It was not the multi-billion-dollar industry it is today. Um, so in his brain, he's just trying to look out. He's like, Eric, like that's a great thing, but you're going to want to have a family. You're going to want to make money. You want to choose a career that you can make money and support a family with. And it stuck in my brain for my entire life. It made me decide to go into the architecture route as much as I loved the process of architecture, and it was a very good experience. Um, like a piece of me, it just never felt I felt like I was faking it. I was trying to love it, and it just never felt like all the things were clicking. And finally, as we said, I went for it, and I feel like I'm doing what I want and should have been doing for so long. And it's a really nice feeling to be like, haha, got you, Dad. Take that, Dad. But he's been super supportive. He's like, I don't remember this at all. I'm like, well, it scarred me for life, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. One thing I forgot to ask was about the publishers. Was there so you mentioned the ones that you liked, but what was it about the ones you didn't like? What were the red flags that you saw?
For other publishers.
Yes.
Red flags. It would be, honestly, it would be, I would look at their website, I would look at their credentials, I would look at the other projects they have done. And then I would look up, see if they have a Wikipedia, look up their history. And I would just kind of do a really surface level judgment. And there's maybe I may be completely wrong in doing so to some of these very hardworking companies, but it just didn't like spark at like jump out at me as something I wanted to pursue.
Mhm.
There was a few there was a few times where they would send a pitch deck or what they were offering, and it just wasn't enough, or it seemed like a lot of hot air, and what backing, there was just some, it wasn't, things weren't meeting and linking together.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
hard to say. It just kind of was a gut feeling. Being in the architectural industry, I worked with a lot of contractors, subcontractors, and other companies, and I kind of got a feel for, like, you have to pick a window company, a window manufacturer, or a certain brick company. You would do the same kind of vetting process, looking at, it's kind of like your first appearance means a lot,
Mhm.
and a lot of times their first appearances were very lackluster. So I would just kind of keep keep going my current path of solo dev.
Okay. Okay. You said that you generally spend like a third on programming, now even less, and then a third on the art, and then a third on marketing. What does that add up to hour wise per day that you're putting into this?
I am a notorious overworker.
Hmm.
I don't recommend the amount of hours I work. It's not healthy. My back is killing me. My thumbs are killing me. Carpal tunnel. It's not good. However, I keep harping on the architecture. It's just very much a part of me at this point. But in architecture school, if any of you have friends who are architects in school, you might know they have literally no social life. They work till 4 in the morning into studio every night, and it just became a part of the culture, and it just never kind of left my brain. So I'm a very, very specific case, and don't emulate this. But I will work from about 9 to about like 11 at night, maybe 1, with like a few hours of like take a walk the dog, eat lunch. I'll do a stream every now and then.
Hmm.
Uh, my fiance is currently trying to get me to stop it
Yeah.
and simmer down. It's very difficult because, like, I don't want to let her down. I don't want to. There's so much I want to do. I want to hit all these deadlines, and I don't want to make this whole adventure for naught. And I don't want to fail. So it's very hard to, every hour I'm not working, it's very hard to not think about it and feel like I should be working.
I got you.
Yeah, I do not work this hard. It's not good for you, but that is currently what I'm doing, but I'm trying to stop.
Okay. So as far as the motivation goes for this, there's multifaceted, it's your pride as far as completing the game, but there's
Mhm.
also a sense of, you know, uh, I said I was going to do this, I'm going to do this. I need to finish this kind of thing.
Very much so. Yeah, definitely.
So are those the two things that keep you motivated throughout this whole thing, or is there anything else that you
It's
really keeps you motivated?
it's definitely a mixture of all that, what you said, and then it's also this the absolute like love for it. Like I have this tick where I'll do this when I'm having fun, and
Mhm.
constantly when I'm animating and like an animation all of a sudden clicks and starts working, you'll hear
Oh,
yes
I'd
or
love to
something like
play
that.
poker with you.
Yeah, right. Oh, I'm a terrible poker player. I am god awful at poker. But yeah, just I love theory crafting, like what a game would, like systems and what would be fun and story, and it just like makes me so excited to do it. So it's definitely a love. This project has been a love letter to every game I've spent hours perfecting or like mastering, completing, 100%ing, like looking through Wikipedias of lore of Dark Souls, Hollow Knight, you name it. I've watched YouTube video after YouTube video of like Mark Brown's game design. Yeah, I've watched your videos a whole bunch. Seeing Lucid pop up on one of those was like, holy shit, that was awesome. But yeah, I just have a love for the craft, a love for the like the community. It's just that fused with pride, ego, all that fun stuff. Not letting my family down and their making their sacrifices worthwhile. Like it's all kind of a tornado of stuff going on. But
So is there any like advice that you would give on to the students here who want to build a 2D game kind of like this that you're like, dude, you have to learn how to do this system because you're just going to waste your time trying it the hard way. This is going to make your life 100 times easier.
I would say if it's your first time, I really, I don't know if it's cheating, but I really would recommend the Corgi Engine. It was a great, because not only does it give you a jump start on the game you want to make, you can look into the code, see how they're doing it, and then even go to their Discord and forums and like ask further, like why does it work this way? How is this working? Like I've learned so much just from looking at other people's very good code that works and then like permutating it into mine into something else. Um, so using an engine is a great one, but past that, if you don't want to do the shortcut and cheat like that, I guess. But I guess collisions are huge. Um, Projectiles are huge. Learning ray casting is so important. Projectiles, when I first started, would go through walls
Mm-hmm.
because due to the speed and the frame, they'll just skip walls.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time to realize you need to do like a ray cast and then predict where it'll be and make it die. That's a big one. So ray casting is huge in a 2D game. It's also great for like explosions, where if an explosion has a circle hitbox and you're on this side of the wall and you don't want to get hurt, you can have a raycast detect if there's a wall between you and the explosion center point and say no damage. So raycasts are a very, very powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to go with raycast.
Oh, that's a very interesting. Yeah, I like that. And as far as advice on the people in here who, a lot of them are going to try to get a job at a company. A lot of want to start with an indie dev company. If they ever decide to go the route of making their own game, what advice would you give them?
Hmm. Start small. Start small. If it's your first time doing anything, like don't make the next Elden Ring as your first project. Make a very easy, almost like a Pong level or a 2D side scroller shooter that's just like 3 levels that'll teach you movement, projectiles, enemy AI, bosses, UI. Um, it'll teach you all like the little fundamental basics. So start small and then iterate and build from there. That's the biggest advice I could give. And feature creep. Try to withhold from feature creep. Make a game doc, make it attainable, something you can do, and then just stick to the game doc and like complete that and move on to the next one and then expand from there.
Gotcha. Good point. And is there would you give anybody like a timeline as to, how far that small game should be? Like it shouldn't take you longer than this if it does stop and move on to the
Hmm.
next one.
Um, that was a hard one because I'm sure some people will excel in some places where others may have harder times. So saying like if it takes you this long to do this type of game, you're a dum dum or something like that. It's I would say maybe like 3 to 4 to 5 months for your first game. Maybe it's kind of arbitrary, but that's like a good enough time to really flesh something out, but also not get bogged down and spend a whole year on something where it's like a learning process.
Perfect, perfect. Well, this was fantastic. I don't think anybody has any other questions. If you guys do, just go ahead and type it in the chat. Otherwise, I think this has been really wonderful. It's been really thorough. You explained a lot about your game, and it's really been insightful. Is there anything you would like to leave us with? We know this is going to come out in Q3. You're thinking Q4, somewhere around that
The
area.
Kickstarter
Yep.
demo for
Okay.
sure, or not for sure, but ideally.
Yep.
I guess just thank you for having me, Al. This was it was an absolute treat to get the invite. I was very excited to be here. Um, I'm gonna have to look through the chat. I'm sorry guys, I haven't been reading the chat very much, but I'll read through and hopefully I can respond. And everyone's been super nice. Thanks guys.
Well, they weren't going to be vicious.
Oh my God, I don't know. So yeah, thank you very much for all your questions. Leaving, if you could all, if you would do me the favor and wish list Lucid, I'm sure you all know that is the lifeblood and would mean so much, and the support would mean a lot. There's a Discord if you'd like. We have a growing, really warm community. We have a Twitch where my friend and I, we play games that inspired Lucid and what I'm trying to draw from and what we love about games. And we've been having a lot of fun. That's also growing. So yeah, if you want to join the Lucid community, that would be great, because I honestly, sincerely, it's so weird being in the spot, because when I used to watch people do YouTubes and thank people, I'd be like, it's like an empty thank you. But now I realize they're totally true, because like it's so hard to say thank you through a screen, but like the community has got me here for sure. Seeing their support and enthusiasm gave me bits of courage to like pull the trigger and do this. So uh, it means a lot. So if you want to join the community, that'd be awesome. You're more than welcome.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Eric, for being a part of this. I really appreciate that. Everyone,
Thank you.
Lucid, keep an eye on that, and go ahead and wish list that. Support Eric with his effort and his game development. And other than that, guys, thank you for being a part of this Friday. Have a great weekend. Keep working on your coursework. Let's keep pushing forward with this. All right.